Hello everyone, we are Parshat Vayechi. This is the end of Sefer Bereshit. In it, Yaakov Avinu dies, and before he dies, he gives a bracha to each one of his children. And the beautiful idea here, just on a simple level, is that the fact that Yaakov Avinu gave each child a separate bracha, with the exception of Shimon and Levi, who went together. But in general, the idea is that Yaakov Avinu looked at each child and gave them the bracha that child needed, or in order to help bring out that child's strengths and natural personality. And one of the lessons we can learn there is that a parent is not meant to kind of see their child and be like, listen, I see that you have a bunch of strengths, but these strengths are not so great. There are other strengths that are better, so instead you should work on those strengths. No, the idea is that Yaakov Avinu sees the strength of each child, and he gives them a bracha appropriately according to what this child is capable of doing, and whose potential could be best expressed by allocating his energies and resources on focusing on that talent specifically. Now, that is in itself an important idea. There's something else that's being brought out here. And that's to say, Rav Aharon Lopiansky mentions this in Ben Torah for Life, and he says this, that when Yaakov is blessed, once by his father and once by Kadosh Baruch Hu, the word kahal is used in referring to his descendants. Now, once we say kahal amim, and in another time it says kahal goyim. What is the difference between being a kahal amim and a kahal goyim? And in this, we see that the role of the tribes have two different elements, I guess, the tribes. The first is that each tribe is an entity unto itself. Each tribe has its own personality, has its own goal, has its own landmass, has its own personality, and that's that. However, each tribe is also just a part of Klal Yisrael. And so we see that there's idea of like this fierce independence within each tribe, this knowledge of who they are and what they're supposed to do, and yet we suffuse that into all of Klal Yisrael. And Klal Yisrael cannot be a cohesive, coherent whole without each tribe playing its part. And this actually demonstrates it beautifully in the words of Rav Aharon Lopiansky. So he says, thus while each tribe is a world unto itself, each is irreplaceable as a member of the whole. For example, he gives the example of the tribes of Shimon and Levi. They, says Rav Aharon Lopiansky, were most outspoken in their condemnation of Israel. See the episode of Dinah. And this is in contrast to, say, the tribe of Dan. Dan were known to take the stragglers into the fold and bring them back into the fold. And so we see these two things are polar opposites. We have Shimon and Levi on the one hand, condemning evil without any mercy. And on the other hand, we have Dan taking in people who aren't doing so well and helping bring them back and being the car of them. Now, how can those two things go together? But ultimately, they can, and they form the one part. It's called two different parts of the same unit that is Klal Yisrael. So the lesson we get from this is the fact that the Jewish people have to be frank and searing in their condemnation of evil. There's no room for being all kind of wishy-washy about what it is, what the Jewish people believe. And at the same time, we're supposed to be done. Even just because people can't live up to the standard doesn't mean that we're not supposed to bring them back and show them love and kindness and affection on its own, but also in an attempt to bring them back into the Jewish people and help them do better. So there's two elements that are brought into the same unit of Klal Yisrael. Now, that in itself is an important idea, but Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky brings up another idea. That is to say, we see that Yaakov Avinu doesn't only give each child a bracha according to his own natural energies and talents, and not only does Yaakov Avinu do this in order to help complement the entire Jewish people into a cohesive whole, but he also gives each child a bracha in front of all of the other brothers. That is to say, Yaakov Avinu does not make this a personal bracha. He does not take each child, bring them into a separate room, say, by the way, here's your role at the end of the day, and then have the child leave, have the next one come in. Yaakov Avinu does not do that. Rather, he gives each bracha in front of all the other children. And inevitably, what must happen is that the brothers are hearing that there is value to each of their brothers' strengths and talents and to their own brachas. And that helps the Jewish people act as a cohesive whole. Because now when they see each other, they won't say, look, at the end of the day, I know that our father, Yaakov Avinu, gave me this bracha, and therefore I am the most chashuv, I'm the most important, I have the most role to play. No, that's not true. You each have your own separate role, and you heard all the other roles being given in front of your eyes by the same father. And in that way, it helps bring about that unity. And further, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky points out something exquisite, that even once the Jewish people were in the desert, each of the tribes did not gather under their own banner until year 2, after the Mishkan had been built. And the reason why that is because once the Mishkan is built, that is placed at the heart of the Jewish people. That is the focal point of the camp. And once that's done, the danger of this kind of nationalistic identity arising in each one of the tribes is effectively sublimated to the whole, because now each tribe will understand that, listen, I have my own strengths, and strengths are important, and I got a bracha from Yaakov for this. However, each one of those strengths is meant to be directed towards the center, that is to say, towards the Mishkan, as part of our avodas Hashem, as part of our divine service. And in that way, you've mitigated the risk that each tribe would want to identify themselves as kind of like my tribe uber alles, but instead will kind of sublimate themselves to the whole, and in that way, Klal Yisrael will achieve perfection and unity. And we should take that idea into Sefer Shemot. Shabbat Shalom.